United States finally got the war they wanted. They've been wanting to have a great military presence in the Middle East for many years. They've been wanting to keep down and squash any government that might become too powerful and cause a threat to Israel, or be able to attract a emergence of Arab nationalism and have one strong Arab leader emerge. And also all the other reasons we've talked about how the United States needs the war to keep the military-industrial complex going and to deflect American public opinion from all the economic ills at home. So it looks like, if you believe in power politics and the old Machiavellian way of doing it, the United States just really set the whole thing up, and it worked perfectly from their point of view.
You're watching Alternative Views, information which you don't get from the establishment media. Now some stories from the alternative press.
The INSLAW case, which you've talked about on Alternative Views, is one of those little things, a kind of little window to the real world of espionage and murder and intelligence activities and cronyism. The establishment is trying to cover it up as fast as they can, if you read the Washington Post and the New York Times. Well, what was the INSLAW case? Well, it seems like there was a small computer company which developed some software which was able to track personnel activities and people. And the intelligence people wanted this for their operations, not only here in the United States, but also in other countries. Well, the INSLAW people had a contract with the Justice Department to develop this. And the Justice Department, the government was supposed to pay the INSLAW people, just a man and his wife were the owners, several millions of dollars. Well, it also happens that friends of former Attorney General Edwin Meese, he was Attorney General at the time, he tried to buy out INSLAW and give the goodies to a friend of his, Dr. Earl Bryan, who was part of Reagan's kitchen cabinet in California. Well, the people who owned INSLAW refused, and so the Justice Department, through various ways, forced them out of business and took the software anyway. Now, what is happening is that between 1986 and 89, nearly 30 people have either died or have disappeared under mysterious circumstances, all of whom stood to reveal some crucial pieces of information on the INSLAW case in the Justice Department. There have been a lot of articles written, a lot of them in the spotlight, by Harry Martin, who's the editor and publisher of the Napa Sentinel. Also in the Guardian, there's a good article this time. Their most immediate story that you've been reading, perhaps, if you've been following the case, is the death of Danny Casolaro. He was an investigator who was working on a book to show that the INSLAW case is just a part of an operation which he called the Octopus. It's tied to the BCCI, that notorious bank. It's tied to the October surprise. All of these people in the intelligence community that have been doing all their nefarious activities over the past several years. Well, he wound up dead, and the authorities are claiming it was suicide, and the New York Times and the Washington Post have mainly just been trying to blacken the name of Casolaro. But all of his papers were stolen, and he was also, people say he was not the type of person who would commit suicide. Well, other people have died too. There was Dennis Eisman, who was an attorney. He was going to make a trip to the West Coast to talk to a person who had information and had made an affidavit on the INSLAW case. And he was going to be able to back up what Casolaro was saying and what the INSLAWs were saying, and he also had some information about some of the intelligence aspects of the case. Well, Dennis Eisman was found dead. Once again, ruled suicide. Another man called Anson Eng was found dead a month before Casolera, and he was working for the Financial Times of London, and he was in Guatemala, and he was attempting to interview a key witness in a case that was related to the INSLAW case. So there are several others of these that are, and they're continuing to go on, where people who know too much about the INSLAW case are finding they're winding up dead. This man who was supposed to get control of the INSLAW software and market it around the world, Dr. Earl Bryan, has been involved or implicated in the October surprise in Iran-Contra, because he has had some meetings in various places around the world where he was the contact man and apparently effectuated some of the agreements. So this little INSLAW company is just a tiny little window in which we can open up and we can see the whole nefarious world of horrible things that are going on, and what happens when people try to bring the truth out. They are killed.